queendom had been enjoying a tentative peace ever since the time, 12 years earlier, when unabridged bloodshed spattered the doorstep of every Wonderlander. The Civil War hadn't been the longest in all of recorded history, but no doubt it was one of the bloodiest. Those who entered a little too quickly into the carnage and destruction had trouble adapting to life during peacetime. When hostilities ceased, they ran amok on the streets of Wonderland's capital city, looting and pillaging Wondertropolis until Queen Genevieve had rounded them up and shipped them off to the crystal mines. A spiderweb-like network of tunnels carved into the far-off mountainside, where those unwilling to who abide by the laws of decent society lived in windowless dormitories and labored to excavate crystals from the unforgiving mountain. Even after these people were taken off the streets, the peace that had settled on Wonderland was nothing like which had existed before the war. A third of Wondertropolis's courts-like buildings had to be rebuilt. The smooth turquoise amphitheater had suffered damage in air raid, as had the public works tower and spires sporting fiery reflective pirate skin. But these scars of war are not always visible. Although Queen Genevieve ruled her queendom judiciously, with care for the well-being of her people, the monarchy had been forever weakened. The coalition of Diamond, Club, and Spade dynasties that made up the Parliament were falling apart. The matriarchs of the families were jealous of Genevieve's power. Each thought that she could rule the Wonderland better than the Queen. Each wanted and waited for an opportunity to wrest control from her, but keeping a none-too-friendly eye on the other families in case they happened to make a move first. After 12 years, the daily life in Wonderland had returned to what might be called normal, where you walked the Wondertropolis's gleaming streets, enjoying the sight of jagged crystal buildings and shop fronts, where you passed the stations where Wonderlanders arrived for work in sleek glass tubes hovering on cushions of air, where you stop and purchase a tarty tart from the vendor and relish in its tarty tart flavor bursting upon your tongue. You would never have known that in certain back alleys, on certain open plains, precautions were being taken. Regiments of card soldiers put through military maneuvers, produced weapons of attack and defense designed and tested, and you would not have been alone. Entertaining no thoughts of war, Princess Alice Hart stood on the balcony of the Hart Palace along with her mother, Queen Genevieve. The city was in the midst of a jubilant gala. From the everlasting forest to the valley of the mushroom, Wonderlanders had come to celebrate the 7th birthday of their future queen, who, as it happened, was bored out of her wits. Alice knew she could do a lot worse than be Queen of Wonderland, but even a future monarch doesn't always want to do what she's supposed to, like sit through hours of pageantry. She would rather have hidden with her friend Dodge in one of the palace towers, dropping Jolly Jellies from an open window and watching them splat on guards below. Dodge wouldn't like the Jolly Jelly bit. Guardsmen deserved better treatment, he'd say, but that would only make it more fun. Where was Dodge anyways? She hadn't seen him all morning, and it wasn't nice to avoid the birthday girl on her birthday. She searched for him among the Wonderlanders gathered to watch the Adventures Parade on the gobbled lane below. No sign of him. He was probably off doing something fun. Whatever it was had to be more fun than being stuck here, forced to watch Wonderlanders show off their silly contraptions. Bidwit Hart, the royal tutor, had explained to her that most of Wonderland took pride in the Inventors' Parade, the one time every year where citizens flaunted their skills and ingenuity before the Queen. If Genevieve saw something in the parade that she thought was particularly good, she would send it to the Crystal Heart, a 33-foot tall, 52-foot wide, shimmering crystal on the palace grounds. the power source for all creation. Whatever passed into the crystal went out into the universe to inspire imaginations in other worlds. If a Wonderlander bounced in front of Queen Genevieve on a spring operated sticks with handlebars and footrests, and she passed the curious invention into the crystal before long, in one civilization or another, a pogo stick would be invented. Still, Alice wondered, what was the big deal? Having to go stand here till her feet hurt? It was punishment. I wish Father were here. He's due back from Borderland at any moment, said Queen Genevieve. But since the rest of Wonderland is here, I suggest you try to enjoy itself for their sake. That's interesting, don't you think? They watched as a man floated down from the sky with what looked like a hollow mushroom cap strapped to his back. It's pretty good, I suppose, Alice said, but it'd be better if it were furry. And with that, the mushroom contraption suddenly covered in fur, its inventor falling to the ground with a thump. Queen Genevieve frowned. He's late, Alice said. He promised he'd be here. I don't understand why he had to make a trip so close to my birthday. There were reasons, as the Queen well knew. Intelligence had indicated that they may have already waited too long. Unconfirmed reports suggested that Red was growing more and more powerful, outfitting her troops for an attack. Genevieve was no longer sure that her military could provide an adequate defense. She was as keen as Alice for King Nolan's return, but she had determined to enjoy the day's festives. Ooh, look at that one, she said, pointing to a woman wiggling as she walked so as to keep a large hoop swinging around her waist. That looks diverting. It'd be more fun if fountains of water were coming out of it, Alice said, and immediately the hoop started spurting water from tiny holes along its surface, the surprised inventor still wiggling to keep it up, swinging round and round. Birthday or not, Alice, Queen Genevieve said, I don't think it's nice to show off. The fur on the first ever parachute vanished. The fountains of the water on the newly invented hula hoop dried up. The power of Alice's imagination had them appear and disappear. Imagination was an important part of life in Wonderland, and Alice had the most powerful imagination ever seen in a 7-year-old Wonderlander. But as with many good, formidable talent, Alice's imagination could be used for good or ill, and the Queen saw mild reasons for concern. Hardly one revolution of the thermite moon had passed since Alice's last incident. Impatient with young Jack of Diamonds for some childish indiscretion, she'd imagined his trousers filled with slick, squiggling wormies. Jack of Diamonds had said he felt something funny, looked down and saw that his trousers were moving alive. He'd been having nightmares ever since. Alyssa claimed not to have done it on purpose, which may or may not have been true. Genevieve couldn't tell. Alice didn't yet have full control of her imaginative powers, but the girl would say anything to get out of trouble. You'll be the strongest queen yet, she told her daughter. Your imagination will be the crowning achievement of the land. But Alice, you must work hard to develop it according to the guiding principles of the Hart dynasty: love, justice, and duty to the people. An undisciplined imagination is worse than no imagination at all. It can do more harm. Remember what happened to your Aunt Red? I know, Alice said sulkily. She never had met her Aunt Red, but she'd heard stories about the woman for as long as she could remember. She didn't bother trying to understand it at all. It was history. Boring, boring, boring. But she knew that to be like Aunt Red wasn't good. That's enough lecturing for one princess's birthday, Queen Genevieve said. She clapped her hands, and the parachute and hula hoop passed into the crystal heart. Much to